All right, what's going on, everyone? Lightning Thunderbolt here. We're back once again, and in this video, we're going to be analyzing the IGN interview with Takashi Iizuka, Sonic Team head. If you don't know who that is, he's the one in charge of the current project Sonic Frontiers, and has been for quite some years. Don't know why you wouldn't know who Iizuka is, but hey, just giving you a heads up in case you don't. Anyway, excuse me. So. This video is taken, obviously, from the official IGN channel. This was taken a few days ago, and I bet you're wondering why we waited a few days to analyze this one. Well, in case you didn't know, it was because at the end of it, as you'll see, Iizuka actually teases the idea that he hasn't thought about his next game, but he very heavily teases the idea of, yeah, basically what most fans are taking from it is, if Sonic Frontiers does well, they're using elements of Sonic Adventure in Sonic Frontiers, which we're seeing more and more of as footage emerges. If Sonic Frontiers does well, he teased the idea of, hey, I'd be down to make Sonic Adventure 3 next, and everyone pretty much popped off. We were like, don't BS us with that, Iizuka. It's like, Sam was just popping off going, if it's not the next game, you know what, I'm in agreement with that. It's like, we can't just, jump to conclusions and assume that they're going to be able to do it. They need to prove themselves with Sonic Frontiers first, right? And then they need to, they need to prove themselves with Sonic Frontiers first, and they need to execute it correctly. If they're going to do Adventure 3 and they do it wrong, then they're done. I mean, heck, they could even be done if they do Sonic Frontiers wrong. So they're clearly going big here. They know they need to whip out Adventure 3 at this point. So they're basically testing the waters with Frontiers. And hopefully they're not just making it a test game. It's going to be a solid, good game. And from what we're seeing, that holds true with the analysis so far, especially with what you'll see in the previous video. That being said, however, if they're going to do Adventure 3, they have to do it right. So basically, we're going to analyze the interview. We're going to talk about what Iizuka said. I think enough time has passed that I've been able to gather my thoughts on this, because it was a lot to take in at once, right? A lot of the early stuff was kind of noise because we didn't get a lot of news, and then this flood of news and new footage and new images emerging of the live the public demo and everything that a lot of playtesters have gotten to play and everything. But we're gonna analyze sort of what Iizuka said at the end, why he said it, why he's analyzing, why he mentioned recently that he's not going to be delaying Frontiers, and why that he may in fact be merited in saying that. We're not sure. We're gonna see, but recent footage confirms it. And then I'm gonna give my thoughts on something very important at the end. It's something I've had on my mind for a while that I wanted to share with everyone. So yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting with the Forces music, it's like, bruh. The broken animation, but alright. Sonic turns 31 this year. So now we have a 2D Classic and 3D Modern Sonic. And Adventure, but okay, he didn't mention it. I should wait until he gets to the end, since he does mention it. It's not until now you had 2D Classic and 3D Modern. It's 3D Adventure and 3D Modern. Come on, man. モダンソニックと2つのシリーズでこの30年やってきましたけども、これからのソニック Iizuka's been with the series a long time, guys, and it's like I will talk about my thoughts on him a bit later, but let's see what he has to say. これからのソニックを But if we think of the future games we want to deliver, we want to challenge ourselves to create a new type of 3D action game with a higher level of freedom. So Adventure! That had a higher level of freedom. That was the frustration behind it, right? Anyway, with recent info, there's not really much to worry about here, but it's it's with again, he's specifically not talking about Adventure until the end, but it's just weird to hear him talk about with a higher level of freedom. But Adventure had a higher level of freedom, and he's trying to act like it's a different thing, or it's different from Zelda's Breath of the Wild, other open world games. It's open world formula, and it's he talks about oh, it's open zone, not open world, which is of course the title of the video. And it's just as Premi's been saying, you're gonna see him talk about it, it's not that much different. But I mean, with me, I'm just kind of repeating the obvious here. But let's move on. 高い 3D アクションを作ろうという目標のもとにこのプロジェクトがスタートします。That was the purpose of beginning the project. Okay, well, that's good. What pops out of the enemies there, Sam was thinking that goes to a stamina gauge to sort of help you restore it, and maybe like stamina doesn't deplete super fast and doesn't restore or something. But I don't know. We're gonna see what it is. Anyway, so you can do this. After completing Sonic Forces, we brainstormed what game we wanted to make next. We probably shouldn't have reused Forces Engine, but I mean, okay.
ソニック
If you can
フ
make
ォ
it
ー
work.
スを作り終わった後に、次のソニックをどうするかっていう、ブレインストームを
Right,
し
okay.
たんですけども、やっぱり
Thought
今
about
ま
the
での従
standard
来のリニ
linear
ア
game
な
format. See, we thought about this line bothers me. When we thought about the standard linear game format for 3D, our ability to innovate felt limited. I mean, like the end part of that sentence is good, but like the idea that he calls it standard linear game format, it's like it became the standard for 3D since 2010. Like he says standard linear game format, but like see, the problem is that it became standard, you know? But as recent information has surfaced, it's starting to feel like he understands that more. Like he's talking the talk, but like again, time will tell. We need to see more of the game revealed, and he needs to prove that he understands that he knows what we need. We, the consumer, especially the longtime consumer that has analyzed Sonic and has understood what we love about this game and what we want to see, which is, of course, what we're going to talk about today at the end of this interview.
3D ソニックのゲームですと、やっぱりどうしてもその進化に、幅がないというか、もう
We would only be able to develop something the fans had already seen before.
やっぱり作り変えることができないと。
Yes, and it seemed, you know, what they had seen for the past 10 years, that was basically the problem.
いうことで、このリニアなゲームプレイを
And it's like, you know, we've seen other stuff that we liked before, but, you know, analyze what you had in the 2000s in terms of story, in terms of movement, in terms of combat, and in terms of just a bunch of different options, you know, movement options, attack options, just all of those things. That, like, you know, 2000 to 2009, everyone says, oh, they were the Dark Ages. Like, you know, there was good stuff in there. And Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps is not our ambassador to the Sonic franchise, so stop paying attention to him. But the thing is, it's like, I'm hoping Iizuka's going in that direction, because with the information we've seen, it's like he's hinting that, yeah, maybe he finally understands that, but, you know, time will tell. We don't know for sure yet. He's talking the talk, he needs to walk the walk.
どう変えていくかっていうところが一番プロジェクトの初期に、チームメンバー
And those conversions with development, conversations with the development team, I couldn't read that.
先ほどお話に、チーム
and have those conversations with the development team, members from the beginning of the project. Development team members from the beginning. Have those conversations with development team members from the beginning of the project. Okay, that's good. So what the fans have seen before. So we had to think about the linear gameplay format and how we were going to change it. That's good. It's good that he's saying that. Changing from linear is good. We don't want linear. We don't want automation. We want control. Cinematics, but control. That's the most important thing. Control to the player. And have those conversations with development team members from the beginning of the project. So you're saying you talked about it to them from the beginning. That's good. That's good. You needed to emphasize that. If it was like from the beginning of Frontier's development, that's a definite plus. That's a definite plus, because they need to make sure they understand what they're trying to create and what the fans want from the beginning. So that's a definite plus. We'd like to hear that. As I mentioned earlier, one of the factors, the idea of this project, was to take the linear game design and turn it into an action game with a high level of freedom as the core starting point. And they're showing the old gameplay that we hadn't seen today, so it's, you know, you're going to see still some of the stuff that feels slower and automated, but maybe this is outdated. It's confirmed it was an older build. How old is the question? But anyway, the idea was to take the linear game design and turn it into an action game. I mean, it kind of already is an action game with a high level of freedom. Good, as the core starting point. That's good. That's good. We want to see that. It's, you know, high level of freedom as the core starting point. So, you know, I guess that means it's open world. See, it's good, but the thing is, like, we want that high level of freedom. Freedom to the player, freedom of movement. You just don't want to make the entire game open world. And, you know, that's like with like the cyberspace levels. IGN has been saying, like, in their interviews, that they were bite-sized. You know, as Premi pointed out, it's like we don't really want to hear the phrase bite-sized. We don't know what that means. Again, if it's like, you know, 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 minute levels, that's like a good size, and we're hoping that those are the kind of levels that we unlock, because then we have the transition from adventure field, which is the big open world, to the action stages, and that gives us the feel of adventure. So let's hope that's what they're going for, because if it's only freedom and open world, then there's not going to be enough to do. But it is seeming like there are more and more enemies that are like, present, and there's enough variety to keep things somewhat interesting. We need to see more examples of like how the music is going to change, but let's hope that they have a good sense of dynamically changing music in the final build.
いかにこう自由度の高いアクションゲームにするかっていうところがスタート地点なので、まあいわゆる
So unlike other open world action adventure games, the origin
起点が違うん
design
ですね。
I don't know about that. So unlike the other open world action adventure games, the origin of the game design is completely different. It's not completely different. It's clearly taking from open world elements, but I feel like if anything, you could argue the origin is Sonic Adventure, right? Because it's like, that was those were the building blocks for this game. If that's what he's referencing, he's correct, and it's good that he's referencing that, because that's what he should be referencing. That's what the team should be referencing. But to say that the entire game and the new aspects that have been implemented are completely original, like, look, yes, there are aspects taken from Breath of the Wild. Like, it's to go as far to say it's like I've been saying, stop just comparing it to Breath of the Wild. What I'm saying is it's not a Breath of the Wild clone. There are Breath of the Wild influences in there, but it's not a Breath of the Wild clone. Like, the originality comes from Sonic Adventure, because yeah, Sonic did open world for himself in his own way first, and that was Sonic Adventure. If that's what Iizuka's saying, it's correct. But I don't know if the actual origin of like this particular game is as unique as he's saying.
起点が違うんですね。なので、
base of our game, hang on. The base of our game is the Sonic 3D action adventure game expanded to be a freer game experience. I mean, depends on what you mean. The base is this 3D Sonic action adventure game. If you're talking forces as the base, that's bad. If you're talking adventure as the base, that's good. If it's adventure but expanded even more to be better, to give more freedom, to give larger zones, to give a greater sense of freedom and exploration while still having that action stage feel with, a format of running from the beginning to the end, while also still being able to explore the open world and have those two playstyles mesh well. Those two concepts, I should say, not playstyles. We don't need a second playstyle just to pad everything out. Like, just pick one consistent playstyle and have sort of like adventure field to, action stages. And if that's the idea, but expanded upon, as in giving us more of that quality content, but in a greater quantity, then yeah, I'm all for it.
3D アクションゲームをいかに自由度の高いものにするかっていうところで、我々の
That's how
考
we
えた
thought
のが
up
このオ
this
ープンゾーンという
quote completely new. It's basically larger scale adventure. Premi pointed this out. A lot of other YouTubers pointed out. It's larger scale Sonic Adventure fused with Breath of the Wild, which is good, but it's not completely original. It's not completely new. But okay, call it open zone. You want to call it open zone? I say it's adventure, but I guess he's trying not to use that buzzword yet. But whatever.
いう新しいゲームシステムです。
Okay.
いわゆるオープン
No open world games. Like this was a strange quote that I noticed. No open world games like Zelda or other AAA. What do you mean other AAA? Like, we should be aiming for this to be AAA too, right? Like, don't say it like that. Or if he's comparing it, it's like you need to get back to the point of AAA. Anyway, open world games like Zelda or other AAA open world games out there.
AAA のオープンワールドゲームっていうのは基本その世界を
I believe are using the world for an RPG or adventure game and flavoring that with open world features. Using the phrase open world a lot. The thing is, like, don't we want some RPG or adventure game elements in Sonic? Isn't that, like, by nature what it is, an adventure game? An RPG, you need that in open world because, like, it does add more flavor. And it's, it gives you, like, a better sense of story, which, that's very, very good in open world, especially since they're creating that mysterious feel with Frontiers. But anyway, go on.
RPG とかアドベンチャーでオープンワールドっていうのを味付けしたゲームだと思うんですけども、
But Sonic is taking the 3D action game as its core, right? And having it take place in an open space is the origin of the idea. I mean, I guess I kind of understand that. Still a bit strange to me because it's like, the idea of going like, adventure field, action stage, and I hope they're having that duality, but it's like if the action stage is, here's the thing, we haven't seen cyberspace. That's going to be like the last key thing I think we need to see of the core gameplay. Because if cyberspace levels are, Sonic Adventure style, like there's a lot of exploration in 3D and a lot of different paths, but still with, a start to end goal, like run to the goal. If they're too much like the bad boosting design, such as like the Forces extra zones that took like 30 seconds, if that's what it is, and it's just a brief platforming challenge. Like the brief platforming challenges are already in place. Like they're already in place in the big open world, the adventure field, essentially, right? So these action stages, the cyberspace levels, since we don't have the real name for them, what the cyberspace levels should be is like, the length of Sonic Unleashed levels with like that same kind of design where like the aspects, the art style of like the gimmicks as well as the level design meshes like it did in Unleashed. It should be like, 3 to 5, preferably 4 to 6 minute levels. They can be slightly shorter as they're early on, but like they get to be like longer levels later on. Like, a 3 to 7 minute level is like, anywhere from 3 minutes to all the way up to 7 minutes, and you can complete them like, they're like, Sonic levels, are average about 5 minutes, right? That's what a good Sonic level length should be. So if that's what we're going to see out of the cyberspace, the Chaos Emerald levels, then that's good. But if they're more like 30-second levels, then it's no good. 30-second, 1 to 2 minute, like that's not enough. We need to see more.
ソニックの場合は 3D アクションゲームがコアであって、でそれをオープンなスペースで行うっていうところが、アイディアの起点なので、
So what makes Sonic Frontiers different is how we approach the open space in the world, which is unique. It's not that unique though. It's the design of Sonic Adventure on a grander scale with Breath of the Wild influence. To say it's a Breath of the Wild clone is too much, but again, adventure is the core, clearly, and expanded upon, and then influence from Breath of the Wild. Like adventure is the core, not Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is the extra influence, but completely unique? No. Sonic's done it before, Zelda's done it before, and many others have done open world before. But it's good. We want to step in this direction.
アプローチの仕方が違うというところが、大きな特徴ですね。はい。まずこの
So the open zone islands.
島では
Okay. Prem and a couple of others also pointed this out. Open zone islands, plural. So once again confirmed, there are multiple islands. What we're seeing is not the only one. I'm hoping this means like there was a desert kind of landscape that was kind of interesting. Maybe there'd be a sky landscape. Would you think there'd be? Well, space isn't an island, but there's like a desert landscape. I think they said marsh, swamps. What I want to see is like an ice world. Like I would love to see an ice world. Like you can do a lot with ice and snow worlds in open world. And Sonic absolutely needs to have that because like his ice worlds are like fantastic. I wonder if like we're gonna have like a lava type zone. That would be kind of cool. The last one would probably be cybernetic in nature. That'd be interesting. Anyway, the open zones islands, you can discover many things and enjoy very Sonic-y 3D actions. That's such an Iizuka thing to say. I'm sorry.
いろんなものを見つけたり、そこにソニックらしい 3D アクションが楽しめる。
Do you even know what Sonic-y is anymore? Because it's like it's just like if it's the generic forces stuff, then no. If it's generic like boost formula gimmicks, then no. If we're seeing like the stuff that's 2D Genesis style physics molded properly into 3D with the adventure influence and serious storytelling, that's it. I know I'm emphasizing it, but again, we need to emphasize it a lot because it's not like we can change the course of Frontiers much, but anything they're able to put in, if that's the direction they've been going and we're reassuring them and they reinforce it as a result, that's good. If they do this for the next 10 years and like make the next game Sonic Adventure 3, that's what we want. So again, speaking out now and reinforcing this is absolutely important. Now more so than ever. I mean, it was probably important before this, but hey, I mean, I've been emphasizing adventure style gameplay, serious stories. Like I've done my part. Like definitely the last 3 years, I've certainly done that.
部分もあるんですけども、 これとは別に
I've tried to on this
もう
channel
一
at least.
つ、ソニックらし
In
い
addition, we
従
also have
来
the
の
more
ソニック
traditional linear high-speed action stages for people to enjoy as well. If you mean traditional linear like boost, then nah, that ain't it, Chief. If you mean traditional linear in the sense of like, you know, large scale exploration, multiple branching pathways, and not just like 3D shifting to like 2D perspective, like fake 3D, like just make the whole game 3D, all 3D. We haven't really seen not many 2D sections, maybe some 2.5D as it like the camera pans and locks to the side of the tower just for convenience sake, but let's hope we don't see a lot of like, you know, 2D sections in 3D levels because we want to see all 3D and we want to have a lot of movement options for the player. And let's hope, because we saw some improvements to the spin cycle in the previous video that I did. The previous video that were of the showcasing the latest gameplay we received tonight. But again, Sonic's not just the fastest thing alive, he's the most agile thing alive as well, right? It's very, very important that he's able to maintain that high speed and turning radius, and that can reflect in his movement in the stages. You know, I hope there's a sense of momentum. I hope there's a sense of gravity as Sonic falls. Like there's a sense of gravity when Sonic's going downhill that he'll gain momentum, and hopefully if we unlock the spin dash, that reflects it and allows us to gain speed as well, but we'll see.
らしいリニアなハイスピードアクションを楽しむステージを用意してまして、こちらは
sort of gameplays the fans of the previous modern 3D action titles will really enjoy. Yeah, if you mean the boost fans, but you know, it's like you still want, you know, a sense of freedom and exploration that you see from the open world in the action stages, and have Sonic's moveset cohesively carry over to those action stages. That was what Adventure did good. And it's like if it's modern boost and it's only that and it's locked into a different control scheme, it's gonna feel off because like we don't need boost for Sonic to be good. He's already gonna have a great sense of speed. And I'll go into this later. I don't think modern fans necessarily need boost. I don't think that's what they want. I think they just want the game to be good overall as a whole. I think that's all they want. But we'll get into that at the end of the video. Moving on.
好きな方たちが楽しめるように、まあ今までのテクニックや今までのアクションを駆使して進むアクションゲーム。この
By merging the new open zone and traditional 3D action stages into the same island. Okay, so again, you know, traditional. If boost is traditional, then you're wrong. It's not what we want. It's like that hasn't become tradition. It became tradition over the last 10 years, but that's not traditional. There was a format before that that was objectively better. Now, if we're talking like boost gameplay that's like on the large scale and aesthetic of Unleashed, yeah, I can roll with that. But, you know, it still needs to mesh well with, you know, an open zone, an open world kind of control system. But, you know, in terms of traditional 3D stages, yeah, just in terms of traditional like 3D action stages, like let's hope we have that freedom of movement that you're giving us, like Adventure Field to 3D action stages, and not have it be like just boosting.
従来の 3D アクションを一つの島にこう一つに混ぜさせることで、まあ従来よりも幅のある
even broader variety of 3D actions than ever before. Okay, broader. That's good. Let's hope so. Showing off the slower spin cycle. Showing off the wind blade kicker sonic wind. That's obviously good.
まあ島で
sounds like Roger's doing a better job so far. We're gonna have to see how his line delivery is with the story stuff. All right, exploring the islands is part of the fun on Sonic Frontiers. Okay, let's hope that that's reflected in the gameplay. It's about both 3D actions of the island, the excitement of what you discover that is fun. Hold on. It's about both the 3D actions of the island and the excitement about what you discover. Some of the early gameplay wasn't as exciting, but like as we saw the recent gameplay emerge, it's looking better. So still unsure yet. I think there are a lot of things to do. Okay. If there are a lot of things to do there, that's good. Puzzle solving, obviously. Some of the puzzles require action game techniques to solve, while others require mental skills. Yeah, mental skills. The Sonic Boom puzzle. We saw the Sonic Boom puzzle and we all kind of cringed because it was like, no, why are you bringing that back? Like, you know, just no. Like some of them are requiring that we've seen like recently are requiring like the player to think, a little bit more like the actions to parry enemies that we've seen. That's a bit more intuitive. Iizuka in another recent interview was saying that like the early builds are not really doing the game justice. It's like, then why not show the later builds? We need to get a better impression of this game. Maybe he's building to it. I don't know. But there's not, yeah, like, I don't know. The puzzles, yeah, require one brain cell. But like from what we saw prior to the interview and then post-interview was better. Prior to the interview, it was like they were still babying us. And it's all right if some puzzles are easy. That's fine. But we're seeing slightly more sophisticated and intuitive gameplay. Maybe that's in the combat, but I mean, hey, we'll see.
テクニックを使うものもあれば、頭を使うものもあるという感じで、様々な
That cinema momentum was alright. Various kinds of gameplay, the puzzles will unlock lots of different kinds of areas. Yeah, okay.
一つ一つこうアンロックエリア
One still looks bad. Expand the play area of the islands as another fun thing to do. Okay, that's good.
今回の
Has different and more realistic look compared to our previous Sonic games. I mean, like Adventure 2, Heroes World meshed well, but that was more Sonic World specifically. 06. More realistic look compared to our previous. You mean the 2010s and onward, the last decade of Sonic games, I guess. Instead of like the 2000s, like, it has a more realistic look like the 2000s, which those games were having a Sonic that grew up with his audience, and that is what you should be going back to. So I'm hoping that's what we're taking from this, right? Addressing Iizuka-san, SEGA, Sonic Team, of course. The fans already know this.
ストーリーにしても、いわゆるソニックのゲームって、いわゆるストーリーにしても持ってると思うんですけども、
Right.
ストーリーにしても
Storytelling in a Sonic game is as well has always been like something bad happened, fix it. I mean, it's alright if story is linear sometimes, I suppose. Like if the story is sort of straightforward. But having a bit more mystery and depth is also good. It really has been more like that in recent games, to the point where it's been almost too linear and too obvious and predictable what's going to happen. There's no sense of surprise or suspense or actual high stakes, and we need that back. And I think he's going to talk about that next, because that's important if we want that back.
いわゆるソニックのゲームっていうのは、悪いことが起こった、なんとかしようっていう風に、すごくダイレクトに
Very directly communicate to the player. This is what you need to do. This is what's happening.
何をしなきゃいけないか、何をするストーリーなのかっていうのが分かりやすく表現してたんですけども、今回の
But Frontiers, we follow Sonic to the islands, and he doesn't know what to do or how to save his friends. Okay.
何をすれば友達を助けられるのか。
By the way, those projectiles that you saw in the cutscene here, I mentioned this, they were in the recent gameplay that was released today. So, that was pretty cool that we got to see like where they'd be firing from, what enemies would have them. All right, this one. We want people to explore the islands and find the answers to these questions alongside Sonic. That's the theme. All right, so make the story good. We're counting on Ian Flynn. He seemed to think the story is solid and positive. Depends on how much they censored or chained him. So it's like, and like as long as they let Flynn do his thing, we're pretty confident the story will be good. So that's a plus. It depends. It depends on if they actually let him do his thing. All right, like and it depends on also if the voice acting tone like reflects that. So far Roger's been given a better tone. Let's hope he's going to be able to reflect that.
対してお客さんもソニックも一緒になって島を探してそれを見つけ出すっていうところがこのソニックフロンティアのテーマなんですね。なので
So the soundtrack also has a less focus on upbeat tracks themed to each specific zone. I hope that's still present though, especially in those cyberspace levels, the 3D action stages that you're talking about, because it should still be there. It's still a part of Sonic, but on the islands, I understand.
に関してもいわゆるそのステージにあったテンポのいい楽曲というよりは、そのミステリアスな島の。
It's more focused on creating and supporting that feeling of mystery we have on the islands, right? All right, that's fine for like the piano theme, the piano type music, right? And those little huts there, the like wooden and twig huts there. It's like were they inhabited by someone? Will you meet more NPCs there eventually? I don't know. And with the big enemies, maybe like you don't see a lot of NPCs at first, but you do later in the game as you defeat enemies, because you meet the inhabitants of the world since they're hiding from all of these big enemies that are there. Anyway, this time, as I mentioned before, these mysterious islands are the stage for all the events in Sonic
は
Frontiers, right?
先ほども少しお話ししましたけど、ミステリア
Fused
スな
with the
島という
the 3D
ところ
action
が、まあ、一つのこ
stages,
の
hopefully.
ソニックフロンティアの大きな舞台なんですね。なので、そのミステ
And
リ
for
ア
the
スな
islands to feel
雰囲
mysterious,
気を
artists worked hard to create the graphics and look that convey that mystery. I am liking the lighting engine; they're doing good so far. There was a lot of slowdown in the build that we saw on IGN, but the gameplay that we saw recently, I mean, maybe it wasn't captured better, but like the gameplay we saw today, like the graphics engine looked like it was great. There was noticeably less pop in, but it was still there. Although I explained the reason for that in that video, why it could be an intentional art choice and why it might merit it, but I don't know. Just speculation at that point. But to create the look that conveyed the mystery, yeah, it's like in the recent gameplay, they did a better job of expressing that. So that's definitely good.
演出するためのグラフィックをうちのアーティストは心がけてます。まあ、本当に30年前から
Sonic fans from 30 years ago are adults now. Really? You're just realizing that now. See, that's the thing that kind of, it's like, finally, he acknowledges that. So here's the thing. This is a very important point. Myself, like, I am, Sonic fans from 30 years ago are adults now. Like I said, I'm almost as old as Sonic. I'm almost 30 myself. So that's the thing. It's like, yes, like I consider myself a classic and adventure fan. I don't mind the modern games. I don't like them as much. But, I like games like Unleashed. That was the best modern game in my opinion. The best boost game. Like Sonic Rush too. But it's like, classic. I consider myself a classic and adventure. Like Dreamcast era fan. So it's like, yes. Like fans like me, Iizuka, are, like many like myself, are, adults now. Fans, we're adults now. And you still have a market in us. And like I said before, at the end of the Colors gameplay, like the Colors Ultimate thing, it's like, that wasn't the game for us. It's like, that wasn't the game for, like, the older fans. And the thing is, you still have us, but who knows for how long? Like, Frontiers, you need to deliver on Frontiers, right? And moving forward, you need to, like, make that your focus. Because the thing is, like, you're not going to have our attention forever. We're adults now. We got to be moving forward with, our lives and everything. And the thing is, I'd like Sonic to continue to be a part of my life moving forward. It's like, I love this franchise. But it's like, if you're still going to move to appeal, and I'm glad you're saying it, this is what he's saying, he's moving to appeal to the fans that are adults now, those fans from 30 years ago. So that's the thing. We've been calling for a return to serious stories, or a return to form with, like, the 3D adventure style games, not the modern ones, and more influence from the more open, more control to the player. Player figures out what's going on, more emphasis on story. So is that what you're going to do? What are you going to do, since you're aware of this? What are you and your team going to do to appeal to me as the consumer, to appeal to people like me, as people like us as the consumers, those who are looking for, like, it doesn't have to be like a Shakespearean play, but a slightly more sophisticated Sonic game that doesn't baby us. And as we saw in the recent gameplay, it's like it looks to be moving towards that direction. So I am a bit more hopeful. Can continue to show us more with regard to that type of gameplay. Okay. There are also the young fans who may have started with the movies and other content, Colors. So they don't really have, like, the best idea. They don't have a fully formed idea of what Sonic should even be. They're just like, I like this character, and the games are kind of fun, but they only really have gameplay to go on because the stories are just sort of generic. And I feel like fans who started in the 2010s haven't grown up with that serious feel. But I think they have appreciation for it. I mean, take Lazarian96, my friend who I worked with before on say, Spectrum Legacy. It's, it's like at the time I was enjoying Colors, but then I realized it's like there was a lot more that I enjoyed that I was missing out on. And the idea that we had Colors-like games for the next 10 years after it is what made me start to dislike the current direction that the franchise was going in. So I'm hoping they're getting back to that adventure era. And the thing is, Laz has realized it too. She's a huge fan of, like, the Wisps and, like, the modern games, but, like, she likes the idea of more serious stories. And she just, what she says, like, as I get, like, her feel for things, it's not really that she necessarily wants to see Wisps, or, I mean, she loves the Wisps, but not necessarily wants to see, like, the modern influences and the silly stories in Sonic games. As a modern fan, what I've heard her say is that I just want Sonic games to be good, and I just want people to like Sonic. And I think that's it. I'm going to talk about this later, but I think that is truly what modern fans want. They don't even need Boost. That is what they want. They just want the games to be good, and they want the games to be liked by fans and critics alike. Anyway, moving forward.
思うんですけども、これからのソニックブラン
Going
ドっていう
forward, we
のは
want
やはりその
the Sonic brand to appeal to both groups of fans across games and other media. Let's emphasize the games first off, and secondly, once again, like if you need to have one target demographic here, and we're gonna go into this, right? You know what? It's like no, we'll go into it at the end. We'll go back to this, but when you say we want it to appeal to both groups of fans, particularly there's three. There's classic, Dreamcast, modern, right? Don't skip on Dreamcast. That's your target market here, and we'll explain why in a moment. But the thing is, like, if you want to appeal to both groups of fans, don't try to go two directions at once. Understand that classic and modern Boost fans have just very simple tastes. I don't want to say like they're particular, because I think the adventure fans are the particular ones. Classic and Boost modern have very particular tastes, right? So the thing with those types of fans, with modern fans and classic fans, classic which I'm one of, and modern which I do appreciate, but I'm not the biggest fan of, there's kind of one specific thing they want to see in games. With adventure fans, they want to see both of those things, but they also have this very specific list of what should also be included in addition to that, because both of those aspects that modern and classic fans want to see make for a good game. But to make for an amazing Sonic game, you need to have both of those and these other aspects, which I'll get into momentarily. But again, appeal to one specific demographic, because that is how you appeal to all of them. And it's crazy to say, but Sonic Movie 2 proved you could do it. I'll get into this momentarily, but let's get to the end of the interview first.
若い子から大人まで両方をこれからも、ゲームタイトルやその他メディアでフォローしていきたいと思っています。
Appeal to all fans, which is difficult to do. As a part of the strategy in June is the release of Sonic Origins. Sonic Origins, which of course is coming up soon, June 23rd on Sonic's birthday. And you guys got us to 800 subscribers. So, as promised, we're going to be running on Sonic's birthday, June 23rd, on the Twitch channel, Lightning Thunderbolt Live. We're going to be starting our 100% playthrough of Sonic Origins. We're going to be getting the game. We're going to do a complete playthrough. So, hope you all are looking forward to that. I think the fact that they're having the Christian Whitehead ports and everything of Sonic's 1 and 2, and now we're going to get like a true to form Mania Team port of Sonic 3. Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sonic 3 Complete. That's good. So, it's like, it's the format of how the games are going, the format of the collection and how they're going to be presented. I feel like that's just kind of like some buzzword stuff, and maybe that's to appeal to the younger fans, to make it like more easy and appealing selling points. The main thing is going to be the gameplay. As long as the gameplay is good, it's like I don't think they can get the classics wrong, so I think they're going to be solid. And the addition of like the animated cutscenes definitely going to be nice. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, moving forward.
が出ます。これはまさしく、
Perfectly presents the origins of Sonic and a new concept, the originals, or for those who are new to the series. Agreed. Yeah, it's a good move.
ソニックのオリジンズとなるゲームタイトルですね。で、それから
The plan on releasing titles like Sonic Frontiers, we plan on releasing titles like Sonic Frontiers as something new that even our 3D Sonic veterans, okay, that's us adventure fans, he's speaking to us right now, that even our 3D Sonic veterans will find new and exciting. Good. You're exhibiting it, you're starting to exhibit it in the gameplay reveals, but, build us up to that and have it be indicative of your final product. That's what we need. Because if you're talking to us, the adventure fans, the 2000s fans, the 3D Sonic veterans, will find that, new and exciting. All right. That's what we want. That's what we've been asking for a while. You're talking to Iizuka, so now walk the walk. Follow through on that. Make sure you can back up those words with actions and with quality content in Sonic Frontiers. That's what we want to see. And Adventure 3, if that's what you're hinting at next.
もう 3D ソニックを遊び尽くした方にも、がさらに新しい驚きが発見できるような新しいタイトルっていうのも
That kick is cool, the Teraya.
これからそういうふうに
Moving forward on a title by title basis, we will focus on these target. Okay, moving forward on a title by title basis. This is important. We will focus on these target audiences and deliver games for those fans. So I'm guessing it's like we're going to have some classic 2D influence games. Maybe like they'll bring Mania Team back. to like introduce new fans to like the origins, and that's good because like if they're not focusing on like linear boost, which we don't want, we want them to get away from that for the next decade. Like the next decade, I don't want to see a single boost game, ideally. And you know, to those boost fans who are like, oh, but I like boost, I want to see boost, I like the linear format. Look, I don't mean to be rude, but wait your turn. Like it's not going to be much longer that I can actually enjoy these games before I have to actually start focusing on life. So, you know, on more on like a lot of like real life stuff and not have as much time to do this. You know, I got a few years left to do this, but you know, it's like it's now or never, Sonic Team, right? So it's like boost titles are fine. I think it's important that we talk about this. There's nothing wrong with boost gameplay. There's something wrong with too much linearity, but there's nothing wrong with boost gameplay. Unleashed worked because they were big levels that were built around Boost Sonic, and that's fine. You know, like if there's like a 10-year gap, I think you know Boost would feel new and fresh again, and fans would like it. But it's not the right time to release it now, and it's certainly not the right time. Like ideally, for Sega's marketing strategy, for Sonic's marketing strategy, it is not ideal to release these games in the next decade. If you want to give one last hurrah to adventure fans and like the fans of like the 2000s and the veterans and everything, the veteran Sonic fans that were fans of like the 2000s, the serious stories, the freedom of movement gameplay, then if you want to give a last hurrah, Frontiers has got to be that game. If you want to restore Sonic's brand integrity and make him more known for like the 3D freedom of movement open world mixed with the action stage start to end gameplay while offering a lot of replay value, then for the next 10 years, the next decade, like those are the types of games you should be releasing. That is the strategy for restoring Sonic's brand integrity. That's what we need, right? So yeah, if the target audience is like, you know, classic fans and you know, allowing the more modern fans to get a better appreciation for Sonic's classic roots while also appealing to those classic and adventure fans who liked both the 2D games and the adventure, free roam, and action stage start to end, replay value strong 3D games like I did and many others like me, who many of those fans are speaking out on social medias, on YouTube, and calling for that now. If that's what they're aiming for, if that's what they're going for, that's definitely good. That's what they should be aiming for. Continuing on.
ターゲット層を分けて、これからもソニックファンの方に
You know, he's talking the talk. You just need to see him walk the walk.
まあもちろん
Mention this. Okay, here comes the big news. This is what everyone remembered. We analyzed everything he said now, I think, and gave it like, you know, a fair chance, but like, you know, in interviews before he's mentioned this. But I would like to continue the Sonic Adventure series at some point. He's mentioned it, right? And the fact that he's mentioning this in a public interview, right? Like a big interview like this, that's huge, right? He like, you know, more and more he's talking to us. It's like, Iizuka, no BS, man. No BS right now. Listen to what he says. Like to continue Sonic Adventure at some point, right? And you should. You should. You should consider Sonic Adventure. You should consider continuing Sonic Adventure. We've been asking for it for, you know, the past decade. We've been wanting that. You should do that, Iizuka. If now, since you're bringing it up, you've considered, yes, I've considered, I would like to continue the Sonic Adventure series at some point. We want that. We do want that. You should continue that. Sega should allow you to do that. Sonic Team should make a Sonic Adventure 3. We just want to make sure that you know how to do it right. We want Sonic Adventure 3, but we want to make sure you know how to do it right. And you're starting to give us the impression that you do. You know, we'll keep analyzing it, but we're getting more hopeful. We've been through this supposed Sonic cycle, as we like to call it before, but we're trying to cautiously analyze, cautious optimism, while being fair to like the final product and everything. Anyway, in Sonic Adventure we had adventure fields, right, which were smaller open spaces, right? So Frontiers is that but a bigger scale, like we've been saying. But even the techniques we used back then are helping us execute well on Sonic Frontiers. With the gameplay prior to this interview, we weren't seeing that. But with the gameplay that was revealed today, I'm more convinced. It seems like it seems like they're delivering more on that because the movement is more like adventure. It feels like what a lot of fans have been saying, that we've been like constructively criticizing and trying to explain clearly what we want in terms of momentum, in terms of movement. It seems like they're starting to get that as newer builds of Frontiers emerge, and we're getting excited for that. Like, we know what happened to Balan Wonderworld. It's like the demo looked pretty good, or the gameplay looked pretty good in the trailers. Then we played the demo, and there were a lot of problems, and everyone was like, oh, they'll fix it for the final release, and they didn't. And part of me wanted to give that game a chance because Yuji Naka and like definitely looked good, but the thing is, like, they didn't execute how they needed to, and we don't want that for Sonic Frontiers. But so far, they're releasing quite a bit of gameplay. They're giving us enough good impressions. There's plenty of gameplay to analyze, and there's enough of it that we can analyze the quality of it. And more, it's like the movement seems to be getting better as like, hey, these are later builds of the game. That's good. They seem to be doing it justice more. And with like the options that have been discussed, such as upgrading Sonic's movement, being able to customize his base movement from the start of the game, that's good. Like speed, turning, we want that. We want that. The fact that the spin cycle had a better turning radius while maintaining speed, we want that. That is good, and that is the exact type of movement that Sonic should have on the ground, in the air, not only in the open world, but in the action stages. These are very, very important things, and we need to emphasize this to Sega. And if Frontiers is a game like that, like, yes, absolutely, I am sold on it, and I would absolutely recommend it to, not only other Sonic fans, but other fans as well. But that's if it delivers on what Iizuka is promising. Continuing on.
生かされてきているのかなと。なので、
So I haven't really thought about my next game yet. But I would hope this is the important line. I would hope all of the work we put into Sonic Frontiers can be used to make another Sonic Adventure game sometime. And Sam kind of flipped out. Like, this is where everyone freaked out. It's like Iizuka, I swear, if it's not the next game, we're gonna have some problems. Like, so basically what he's essentially saying is Frontiers is to test the waters, and like, it is a complete game, there's hopefully going to be a lot of content. We'll see. But he's saying, like, we're putting a lot into it. And if Frontiers does well, we're using that as the framework to make another Sonic Adventure game. I wouldn't want him to use Force's engine, but hey, if they manage to refine this and say, hey, this is like a good Sonic engine, and like we see what happens in Sonic Frontiers, and the movement feels good despite it being Force's, starting from Force's and Lost World engine, which I don't like the idea that they're reusing. It is a well-optimized engine because there's not a lot of chugging and slowdown, so that was good. Maybe that means it's easier to code for. But, we'll be able to tell with Sonic Frontiers' final release. And if they capitalize on that, right? If they capitalize on the final release with Frontiers and everything, that's good. Like, if they capitalize with Frontiers and it feels like adventure-style gameplay, which it needs to, since it's open world and, with action stages, and that movement is there, the smoothness of combat is there, the tight controls are there, if it releases and people like it, and it's what we're wanting to see out of an adventure-styled and adventure-influenced game, which Sonic Frontiers clearly is, and he's saying that is received positively and sells well, then it could be used to make another Sonic Adventure game sometime. So, if we put the thought in his head, like, hey, Frontiers is good, we're seeing a lot of adventure influence, do Adventure 3 next because we like what we see. Again, they need to succeed with Frontiers. But if they do, and they manage to reflect like good work in Sonic Frontiers, and it feels and plays like Sonic Adventure, then if it's what we want, then we need to emphasize to Iizuka, to Sega, to Sonic Team, this is what we want. Do this for the next game. And it's sounding like they're going with the adventure influence, especially since it's open world. So we need to be emphasizing yes, but we need to see more refinement. It's close. It's getting closer. Not close. It is getting closer. But it's not quite there yet. We need to see more to be convinced. We need to see what the game is like. We need to play it for ourselves. So if you're able to capitalize on that, if Frontiers is able to be good in the engine you've designed it with, and it feels like adventure, then yes, we as fans absolutely need to emphasize, yes, this is what we've been looking for. Because I ask you, what happened with Shadow the Hedgehog? You remember? It's like, Shadow was an amazing character in SA2. He made a comeback in Heroes. And, everyone was like, oh, give Shadow a gun and a shooter mechanic. And, so Yuji Naka did it. And then the fans were like, oh, we hate this thing that we totally asked for. And then Yuji Naka was just done. And 06 could have been good, but like we like tired him out. Like we asked for something, he did it, and he got burned as a result. And why? Because like, you know, Game Grumps and Angry Video Game Nerd were saying, oh man, these serious Sonic games are bad. They're idiots. Serious Sonic games aren't bad. Like look, I'm not going to force people into absolutes, but if you just say, oh, what is it, like what Aaron said, what is this Final Fantasy looking BS? Like Sonic shouldn't be allowed to have serious stories. You are fundamentally incorrect. Shut up. That is where I draw the line. You can't just say Sonic is never allowed to have serious stories or that serious stories don't work for Sonic. Yes, they do, and many fans thought so. We just weren't on the internet in the 2000s. We weren't allowed to express our opinions because we didn't have a proper way of articulating that. We all loved those serious stories. We all loved those 2000s era games. Not all of them were perfect, but they had charm. They had like that extra serious feel that we needed. And they had good experimental gameplay ideas. Not all of them were perfect, but if capitalized on, then they'd be really, really good. And this is important to remember. So like the idea that Sonic isn't allowed to have serious stories and only has to have like meme stuff in the Baldy McNose hair BS, like no, that's crap. That's wrong. We don't want jokey, memey Sonic stories. Just because something is popular doesn't mean that that's what we want. Like Aaron, like Game Grumps are funny. Angry Video Game Nerd is funny, but like they do those videos about like, you know, memeing on Sonic and everything, or making something a meme. They do it because, excuse me a second. Sorry about that. Needed to get a sip of water. See, they do those memes because you notice it with other games. That is our way of coping, right? That's a Sonic fan's way of essentially coping with the idea that, you know, the games aren't what we want. And that's, you know, that's why we memed on, say, you know, like Colors and Generations. Not necessarily Generations, but, you know, a Lost World story. Lost World story was terrible. Lost World had some idea there for gameplay. It wasn't ideal. But Lost World's story, that was really, really bad. We don't want that kind of story. It's like you see what happens when it's like, you know, it is our responsibility as fans to say this is a joke. We do this to cope, right? But we can't emphasize to Sega, like, you know, like they looked and said, oh, these videos are getting likes. That must be what the fans want. The fans don't want some joking type format with or joking type tone with the stories, right? What we want is a serious tone. And like, yeah, we couldn't really emphasize that, you know, in the 2000s like we needed to. You know, better late than never, I suppose, but hopefully it's not too late. Because, you know, we need the story to be serious. I'm glad Flynn's writing the story. I hope that means that reflects a serious story, and that's very, very important that they do that right. Now more than ever, we need to emphasize to them we want serious story and, you know, intuitive gameplay that doesn't baby us, that reflects the tone of the story, the darker, serious tone of the story, because those were good concepts. And the idea that it's goofy and Sonic can never have a serious story is fundamentally incorrect. It's morally incorrect, and it's toxic to this fan base. I mean, yeah, like we can have like some serious, like some silly Sonic stories here and there, and we can have like, you know, but those are better for shorts and like the memes and like, you know, Twitter and like the Sonic Twitter and everything for like the developers to joke with their fans. But see, here's the thing: like the developers are trying to vibe with us. No. You can't vibe with us yet, guys. You haven't delivered on the serious game. We joke to cope while we're waiting for the game, and sometimes just because it's fun and we like it. Like, when you deliver the games, it's serious time. Like, you need to get the serious story out there. You need to have, like, some high stakes in the story, and you need to have, like, a voice acting tone and gameplay style that reflects it. That is what's important, and that is what we need to emphasize. You're allowed to joke about Sonic. Don't do it in the games. Like, the games need to have the serious tone. We can joke on social media all we want, but that's just our way to blow off steam and because it's fun. In the games, we love those serious stories. That's what gave Sonic his character, his personality, what made him so relatable, and that's what we need to have come back. That's what needs to come back right now in Frontiers, And if you're focusing on an Adventure 3, and if that's what your plan is, if Frontier succeeds, then for the next decade, it needs to come back. This is what I've been saying for the longest time, what so many other long-time hardcore fans from the 2000s who like both the classics and the adventure titles have been calling for. Anyway, I went on a little bit of a rant there, but that's essentially what we needed to discuss with Adventure. There's something else that I want to discuss here that, it was my points at the beginning of the video that I'll mention. But let's go ahead and finish out the rest of the interview.
フロンティアの技術を使って、ソニックアドベンチャーシリーズをまだできたらいいなとは個人的には思っています。
And you better deliver on it, man. Anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is. So we need to go back to was it this point? This one right here. This right here. This is the last point we need to talk about, since now he mentioned Adventure 3, right? Going forward, we want the Sonic brand to appeal to both groups of fans across the games and other media. And be careful with that statement, because if you're trying to look into to appeal to both groups of fans, Sonic fans make this mistake, right? They say, "Oh, it's impossible to appeal to everyone," and it is. But to say it's impossible to appeal to every type of fan, at least on a general basis, and generally appeal to everyone. See, Sonic fans say it's impossible, and for the longest time, I believe that. But the thing is, they can do it. But if they're looking in two directions at once, they can't. If they have a target demographic, a singular target demographic, and they focus on that, and yes, I am saying adventure fans, they will satisfy everyone. Now, bear with me here. I know I'm biased being primarily an adventure fan and advocating for adventure, but here is why this is so important, right? Because I ask you, everyone says it wasn't possible to appeal to every single fan, for any form of Sonic game or media to appeal to every Sonic fan. Really? Then I ask you, why was Sonic Movie 2 so impactful, right? Think about this. Sonic Movie 2. That is a piece of media that arguably appeals to not only all Sonic fans, but everyone, right? It appealed to all three types of fans. Classic Genesis fans, Adventure 2000s Dreamcast fans, and the modern Boost fans. It appealed to all three types, and not only them, but all general audiences. It was not just for all Sonic fans. This piece of media was for everyone. It was truly a piece of Sonic media that was made for everyone. And I don't think I've met anyone who disliked it, right? Like, they've done this thing. They've managed to create this piece of media that's appealed to everyone. And it's because, they had classic references like, and I'm going to talk about some movie spoilers here, like, when Robotnik was in the thing, and then Agent Stone it activates that thing in the Death Egg, right? He was inside the Death Egg, and then it's like, what was that movie just did? He like Stash Smash, like the mustache did the clap thing. It's like Stash Smash. And he like holds up a thing, says so right here in the manual, and it's a Genesis manual. That's great, and like all the other classic references they did throughout, that one was particularly my favorite. Not to mention the comic book references, like the lore references. There was references to Sonic Adventure all over. They brought in Gun. Spoiler alert for like the ending in Sonic Movie 3. Shadow was teased, and Sonic Adventure 2 was teased in Sonic Movie 3. Like the way that Super Sonic held up the Death Egg robot's foot when he transformed. He was about to be crushed along with his family, right? But then it's like, it's that moment. You just think to yourself, like that one moment from the Genesis saga in the Archie comics, where he's like, Eggman just transforms into Super Sonic, holds up the foot one-handed. Sometimes you make this too easy, It's like, it's that moment, and I love that they referenced that. That was so good. And it's just, the way they wrote Knuckles, like to modern fans, it was just like, just the appealing of I think of these familiar characters and everything, and like, Sonic good, him fast. I think that's kind of simple. Not to say modern fans have like simple appeal, but they haven't, I guess, developed what they really want Sonic to be for themselves. They're still learning, right? Because they're younger, they're kids, they're in adolescence, and at that moment we didn't know what we wanted Sonic to be, but we do now, right? But that's the thing. It was characters done right. They respected Knuckles. He wasn't just a moron. He was, simply like isolated and out of touch. But like, they made it endearing because he was serious and he had like a good arc. The way they introduced the Chaos Emeralds, the lore behind that, they gave respect to the series. They didn't necessarily do the Gun Commander, the GUN Commander justice. I'm glad they brought in Gun. That was really cool to see. I wasn't expecting that. But they managed to do every single character justice, like, to their original design and the way they acted, while at the same time appealing to a modern audience. there was like that one cringy time when like Sonic did the floss in the first movie and Eggman did the floss in the second movie because they had to appeal to like, the modern audience, and that's just an obvious way to do it. But they made Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, they were all very wholesome and charming, and they had like, this like, Sonic and Knuckles butting heads, and Knuckles having like this big brother dynamic to like Tails when he like lifts him on his shoulder at the end of the baseball game. It was so adorable and wholesome, and it made me smile. Me, an adventure fan. And everyone thinks that we're just, like old farts that can't appreciate Sonic media anymore, but they did it right because they made it wholesome, they made it enjoyable. It made me smile, and at the same time they appealed, right? They appealed to like those older fans by doing their stories right. And like, they had those moments of comedy, they had those moments of laughs, but they didn't overstay their welcome, which a lot of anime type influence does. A lot of shonen anime, like, there's moments of comedy, but the core of the story is the serious idea. They did this with Sonic movie. Paramount did this. So that begs the question then, right? Why has Sega not done this with the games? And see, I think through analyzing this, I've realized what the problem is, right? See, I mentioned before at the beginning of this video and at the end of the last video, like a lot of people think that it's impossible to make a game or even a piece of media, which we've disproven now, a game that can appeal to every single fan, or at least every single type of Sonic fan, or the general audience and people at large, like just fans of video games, or even just people who want to try a video game at large. See, this is wrong because I realize now, if you appeal, like if you make Dreamcast Adventure 2000s fans your target demographic, you can appeal to all three at the same time. If you do Adventure right, you can appeal to all three. And here's why. Modern fans, some are like diehard Boost fans, but the thing is, I realize now, I don't think modern fans, since they haven't realized what they want Sonic to be yet, modern fans don't need Sonic to have Boost. All they want is for the game to be good. Like, they like the fact that Sonic's in it. They like the fact that he's fast. They like, all the action-y stuff because they're still developing what their opinion of Sonic is. They know they like the character, but they don't know why. Modern fans simply want the game to be good, something they enjoy, and they want everyone else to be able to enjoy it so they feel validated in enjoying it. Do you understand? Modern fans want critics and fans alike to be able to enjoy it. They want this game to be critically acclaimed. They not only want to enjoy the game themselves, but they want to feel validated in enjoying it. And I remember growing up how I just wanted to be able to talk to my friends about like, hey, I like Sonic games, but I would always be met with like, oh, you like Sonic? Sorry, man. A lot of people don't like that. But it's like, but like, I don't want the modern fans now to go through that same thing. I want them to be able to say, I like Sonic, and everyone's like, oh man, Sonic Frontiers was so good. Sonic Movie 2 was so good. I want them to be able to be excited with their peers, with the younger fans, with adolescents growing up, being able to like talk about that. That's important for modern fans. It's not that they want Boost. They don't need Boost. They just need the game to be good, and they need everyone else to enjoy it. That's what they enjoy about Sonic. That feeling of they like this game, and they want to be justified in liking it. That's all they really want. And classic fans, I can verify this since I'm a classic fan myself, and I talked about this in one of my previous videos, doing the example of Sonic Adventure, gravity and momentum physics, like, the spin dash accelerating downhill, not even having to push anything, right? See, notice this. Ever since Sonic, like classic fans were really pissed off when Sonic 4 came out because it wasn't true to the physics. But then Sonic Mania was re-released and it was amazing. And fans like Cybershell, they haven't been angry anymore. Like, Cybershell was so angry on YouTube doing like a lot of stuff, but Cybershell hasn't been mad anymore. You want to know why? Because he loved Sonic Mania. He got his farewell, and he's getting more games, right? Cybershell, he's getting Sonic Origins, and he's excited that they're like re-releasing Sonic 3 and Knuckles. He's excited for these classics. He thinks they're going to be good, and I agree. I'm a classic fan too. In addition to being an adventure fan, I'm a diehard classic fan too, and I love the classic physics. I love, and the classic games did storytelling too, but it was more about the gameplay. Do you want to know what classic fans want? Classic fans want a game with Genesis physics in 3D or classic remakes. They're getting the classic remakes. We just need the game with Genesis physics in 3D, and this is why it's so very important that Sonic Forces nails that feeling of momentum. They're getting there. They're getting better, but we need more. But that's the thing. It's very simple. Modern fans just want a game everyone can enjoy. Classic fans want a 3D Sonic game with the 2D Genesis style physics. That's really all either of them want, because at their core, modern and classic fans are very simple. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They're very simple in their interests. All they want is a good game that feels good to play. That's what they have in common. Now, I ask you, what is it that Adventure 2000s fans, Dreamcast fans want? Here's the thing. Everyone thinks that, oh, they're impossible to please because they all want something different. No. I'm going to tell you right now, what it boils down to is 5 things. Like, in addition to what the modern and classic fans want, because Adventure fans want the exact same things I just described. But in addition, they think that an ideal Sonic game needs those 2 aspects, what the modern and classic fans want, but there are 5 key things that it needs to have. There are 5 key things, and they are as follows. And I've said this a lot, right? This first one I've said a lot. 1, a balance of speed-based platforming, combat, and exploration. And Frontiers has the potential for that. Like, again, it has, like, the speed-based platforming, combat, and exploration, they're all there. Combat's looking solid. Exploration's looking pretty solid. Speed-based platforming, they need a better sense of momentum and not just speed force, right? That's what they need. But that's the thing, right? It's like the balance is the key word there. They need to balance all 3 of those things. And it's so very difficult to actually balance that. If they can get that balance just right, they're golden. 2, the second thing that Adventure fans want, a serious story with passion, high stakes, and intellect with how it's designed. That passion, high stakes, and intellect. And the thing is, we've got Ian Flynn writing, so we've got the story. We just need to have Sega, like, not limit him. So, you've got the story in the palm of your hand. Let's hope we can do it right. 3, third thing, and this is the thing that we've been a little worried about. A good soundtrack, and yes, preferably with Crush 40 music, but generally speaking, with a rock influence, an orchestral influence, or an orchestral rock influence. You can have some techno, but make it more upbeat, high-paced, with, like, the big instruments, make it like drum and bass. Like, trap beat doesn't really work for Sonic. The chill step doesn't really work for Sonic. If you're gonna do more vaporwave type stuff, like, that just kind of works for, like, chill vibes or, like, just background music. It doesn't really work in the context of an actual Sonic game. I can see the appeal of it, and I like the remixes, but, like, in terms of an actual Sonic game, you need the rock influence, you need the orchestral influence, you need orchestral rock, like, for the final bosses and everything, and you don't have to, do some techno, but rock, orchestral, and orchestral rock are the main influences of music that should absolutely need to be present in a Sonic game. And it's the thing is, we're seeing the piano, we're seeing some orchestral tracks, but, like, we're not seeing the rock influence. Is that limited to cyberspace levels? Does the music change when the enemies pop up? Is it dynamic music changing? If that's the case, then, I hope they capitalize on that, because they need that. That's the third thing. Good soundtrack. Number 4, and I gotta give Sega credit. They've been doing this. They've been capitalizing on this. Replay value. And like, what do you need with replay value? Well, I mean by that, specifically, like, supersonic, superform, and hyperform transformation, playable in the base stages after the final boss. Like, when you unlock all the Chaos Emeralds, like, the idea of, like, this didn't happen until Colors, which that was a strong point for Colors. We finally got in, like, an adventure platformer. We got supersonic playable in the standard stages, because after, like, the classic games, we didn't get to have that. Like, an adventure, that had to be modded in. Like, you saw my adventure playthrough. That wasn't without the Steam mod loader and everything, right? Like, that needed to be modded in. We want that naturally in official Sega releases. And, like, the reason I say Hyperform is because there's a rumor that, there's a leak that Hypersonic could be returning, and it's from a solid leak that's predicted a lot of stuff correctly so far. So we're pretty much almost guaranteed, I think, going to see Superform Big Titan battle gameplay, and I hope that there's some free roam with Supersonic, because flying around the world, like, the open world, after you get to run around it at the very end, that would feel so good. And using Superforms in the action stages too. It's not just the open world. Let us use him in the action stages as well. That's very, very important. The ring health system worries me, because, like, I'm worried that's, like, you're going to deplete all your rings, but maybe it's sort of like an energy meter and it's like a burst. Either way, Superform gameplay in the standard stages, in the action stages and the open world, and, preferably Hyperform too, if we get Hypersonic, and we would like Hypersonic. We want that to be brought back, especially with the release of Origins. Perfect time to do it. We want Hypersonic in 3D, so please do that. And what else is an option? I mean, in addition to like superform replayability, and why that's so important is because hey, you go through the game as Sonic, right? You immediately double the replay value of an already good game if the base game on its own is good. You double that replay value if you add Super and Hypersonic. That's very, very important, right? But if you wanted to go a step further and add infinite replay value, and I say this because those little rock Korok looking things are making chow sounds. We talked about that. I'm almost convinced they are chow. It was hinted at in a leak that it hasn't been confirmed, but it's hinted at that there could be a Chow Garden for Sonic Frontiers. And if that's the case, Chow Garden adds infinite replay value to the game. It did it for the adventure games. That's why a big reason why they're so popular. Chow Gardens aren't the most important, but if you have time for it and can do it right, make the base game and the super and hyper form replay value, those are the, I think, more important. Those are the most important. But if you have time for a Chow Garden, yes, by all means, add it back. Please, we want it. But things like that. And number 5, and I say this because it was in a leak and we've also been emphasizing it too, like Sonic's been the only playable character for like basically the past 10 years. We haven't seen multiple playable characters since I think Sonic and the Black Knight. And no, Sonic Forces Speed Battle doesn't really count. Most of those characters are just alternate skins because they play the same. Most alternate characters, like Shadow is basically just a skin in Sonic Forces. What we need to see, the 5th thing that adventure fans want, are multiple unique playable characters, not just different skins that play the same, different moves. And it was hinted at that, since Tails and Amy were present, it's hinted at in the animation that Knuckles is present, guarding the Master Emerald, Adventure Lure, good. It was hinted that Tails, Knuckles, and Amy will all become playable in Frontiers at some point. Now, let's hope they're not just skins. Like, I would like to see them with their own combat style. I'd like to see them with their own movement and exploration style. This is a perfect game to do it. If you have the extra time, if that's planned, you need to do this. This is something that adventure fans want to see. This is all very, very important. And the thing is, it sounds like I'm asking a lot, right? But it's been 15 years since the last adventure game, 15 years since the last adventure Sonic game, the last adventure influenced Sonic game, 10 years since the last truly good Sonic story. It's about over a decade since the last truly good Sonic story, over 15 years since the last adventure influenced Sonic game. It's time. We need this. And Iizuka's reflecting that. He's talking the talk. You need to walk the walk. So let's review. He's trying to talk about appealing to both groups of fans, or all three, classic, Dreamcast, modern. But the thing is, you don't need, if he's doing it by looking in 2 directions, that's not how you do it. You can appeal to all three and general audiences at large if you just appeal directly to the 2000s audience. Because the thing is, the 2000s audience wants what everyone wants, right? The modern fans want a game that everyone can enjoy, so they feel validated enjoying it. The classic fans want a game with Genesis physics in 3D, so they can feel like they have a good sense of movement and they enjoy playing the game, because Sonic is all about speed and movement. That is his core gameplay design. That needs to be in there. But see, the thing is, the adventure fans, it's very simple. The adventure fans want both of those. But what they want is balance of speed-based platforming, combat, and exploration, a serious story with passion, high stakes, and intellect, a good soundtrack, preferably Crush 40, rock, orchestral rock influence, replay value, super and hyperforms playable in the base stages after the final boss, Chow Garden, etc., things like that, and of course 5, multiple unique playable characters that aren't just different skins, that actually have different moves and aren't just like a one-stage thing, that you are actually a new unlockable playable style. I would love to see Tails, Knuckles, especially Amy, playable in the next game, that, and they all are like treated good with their character development, the way they talk, and like their movesets. That's really all it is, guys. Like, everyone thinks it's impossible and that adventure fans are too particular or whiny and they want too much. That's all it is. Adventure fans want the exact things that modern boost and classic fans want, but they just want that plus those 5 points. That's why fans haven't been satisfied. And if modern fans are just as simple as like, oh, we just want adventure fans to shut up so we can like what we want to like, then make that game. Like, think about it. If it's just you're making Frontiers and that's it, whatever, I guess. But like, that's what I've been saying. Adventure fans just want one more really last really great Sonic game. And preferably if we get like really great Sonic games that are adventure influenced for the next decade, that's even better. But hey, we'll settle for one. We want more. We would love more. And I think a lot of the fan base would love more at this point. But we just want one. That's all. We will settle for that. And do you want to know why? Once Cybershell realized that they released Sonic Mania and it was the game that he was waiting for, he and a lot of other classic fans, myself included, have you heard him complain once since then? Like he's just basically made videos that are just basic, content that associate with his brand, but he hasn't done any ranting or complaining videos really, unless it's about previous games that have been released. But he always goes back to how wonderful Mania was. And I agree. As a classic fan, I'm satisfied. I don't need any more classic Sonic. I don't need any more Genesis Sonic. I mean, I'll be glad to have more. It's welcomed. But the thing that I want most, the thing we need most now as Sonic fans, is what I just described, the adventure style gameplay, because that's what all the fans want. By appealing to this one demographic, you don't realize that you appeal to all of it. You think that you're only appealing to adventure fans, but by doing this, you're appealing to all three types of fans. It's not perfect. Like, there will be people who want that niche boost formula, that want more like just the classic physics, and who don't want a story for some ungodly reason. I don't know why. I don't know who these people are. I don't understand it. But if you follow that format, a game everyone can enjoy, a game with Genesis 2D physics in a 3D game, and then those 5 adventure points, balance of speed-based platforming, combat, and exploration, serious story with passion, high stakes, and intellect, a good soundtrack, Crush 40, rock, orchestral rock, that kind of influence, replay value, super and high performance playable in the base stages, Chow Garden, that kind of stuff, and of course, multiple unique playable characters, not just different skins, but having different moves. If you go with that format, it's actually very, very simple at its core, and if you go with that format, I can guarantee that is the ideal Sonic game, and it's not difficult to pull off. We've seen fans pull off Sonic games that everyone resoundingly just loves. That this is what we're looking for. We've seen Paramount pull it off with the movie. At this point, there's no excuse. There's no reason Sega can't pull it off, and we're hoping and praying that Frontiers can be this game. And we're seeing the potential. We need to see more to be convinced, and we're hoping that on release date, what we're seeing that is positive is indicative of the final product. I've talked for a while, guys, and I know that I'm sounding very particular. I know that a lot of modern fans are just like, oh no, we don't want Boost to go away for the next 10 years. Listen, if you get a break from it, if you just give Adventure Formula a chance, you'll realize there's a lot more here. Like, if you understand what we mean by Adventure Formula with good gameplay and good story, you'll see there's a lot more here to appreciate than you first thought. And the thing is, that will make Boost feel fresher when Sega wants to make a comeback with it. But if Iizuka is saying that the next decade is adventure influence, this is good. This is what we want, and I think it's going to be good for the fan base at large. So, what am I trying to say as a result of analyzing this interview? Listen, all I'm trying to say is the bottom line is don't try to appeal to all 3 types of fans when you already can appeal to all 3 by appealing to the Dreamcast, the Adventure, the 2000s era fans. Because the 2000s era fans already want what the other 2 types want. All we want is just to have those 2 things that the modern and classic fans want with those 5 points. We just want more emotional impact, more competent design, and more, and I can't stress this last point enough, brand integrity. Yes, you're going to get some decent Sonic games if you appeal just to modern or just to classic, but by appealing to adventure and 2000s fans and appealing to all 3 types of fans, not only do you get a good game that's long-term, that lasts, that gives Sonic fans and their children at this point a happy ending, but you restore brand integrity for the long term. And I should know about this. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I graduated college. I majored in business. I know a thing or two about good business strategies, and I can't stress this enough. Yes, you can go for that minimalistic effort, maximum profit thing, but that only works for so long. You can tell that your franchise, your official Sonic franchise at Sega right now, it's dying. And the thing is, it's becoming more alive, and the movie helped it. But the thing is, unless the games nail it, they're not going to capitalize on it. They're going to flop because Sonic is a video game at his core. He was originally a video game. The video games need to do well. I cannot stress enough. Bringing back a sense of brand integrity is a good long-term business strategy, and Sega needs to do this. And the way they do this is by bringing back adventure influence. If they do it with one game, it's at least a farewell, and people will stop complaining, and people in the Sonic fan base will feel a lot more positive. If they do it for the next 10 years, the next decade, and actually genuinely give us a Sonic Adventure 3, I can tell you with certainty, brand integrity will be restored, provided they do it right. We need to see them do it right. But that, my friends, is what will restore brand integrity and will make so many Sonic fans happy. That is what we need. Anyway, maybe I'm just screaming into the ether as always. Maybe this is falling on deaf ears, but a lot of what Iizuka is saying is reflecting what myself and so many other Adventure era Sonic fans have been talking about. And that's the thing, guys. I want to emphasize we don't hate Sonic. We don't hate this brand. We don't hate the official games. We love Sonic the Hedgehog. We love this franchise, and we want so badly for it to be good. But we criticized it over the years because it wasn't living up to what we knew it could be. And it has the potential to do that now more than ever. If they capitalize on this, I can guarantee you so many more Sonic fans are going to feel positive. And it's going to have an impact on the world, on Sonic fans around the world, like you've never seen before. Again, what modern fans want and what classic fans want is what adventure fans want. Adventure fans just want those 5 extra aforementioned points at this video, at the beginning of that I mentioned a few minutes prior in this video. And I cannot stress enough: emotional impact, competent design, and brand integrity. Sega, you're a business. We are your consumers. We are literally telling you what you need to do. You want us to buy your games? We need that. I cannot stress enough that competent design, that brand integrity, serious story, serious characters, good gameplay design that reflects the classic games in 3D properly, that good replay value that you've been doing with including Supersonic and base stages, and not just Sonic playable, multiple unique playable characters. This is very, very important. It's not gonna be the end of the world if it's not in Frontiers, if like the rest of the game is great and it has all the others. But we want to see Sonic's friends come back in a good light. Sonic games are not just Sonic. There are other characters, and we want to see them playable. And again, I stress, doing all this, this is how you restore brand integrity. This is how you become profitable in the long term, and this is how you ensure long-term positive reviews. Not just speaking to you as a fan and a biased Sonic fan and as a consumer. I'm speaking to you as a business major. This is what you need to do. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. More news will surface in the next few days. And you know what? Thank you guys once again for getting us to 800 subs. We'll be streaming Sonic Origins on the 23rd on Sonic's birthday, so definitely tune into that. Anyway, by the time we upload it, might be, I said the gameplay I dropped today, it's probably going to be tomorrow at this point. So anyway, you'll probably get to take a look at it. I'll put all the necessary links to videos in the descriptions if you want to watch the original ones themselves. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoy the fact that we're covering this. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know what you think if you disagree, let me know. Let me know what you think you would like to see in Frontiers, what you think the ideal direction Sega should go is. But let's have an active discussion about this. Let's talk in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So anyway, that's going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to close out this video. I'd like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for 800 subs. Thank you for letting me continue to do what I do and make the content that I do for y'all. I'm grateful, and I'm just glad that I have an ability to speak to y'all and speak to y'all on this matter and just talk about this, because we need to actively talk about what we want for Sonic. I think it's starting to get through to them. They're talking like it is. What they're showing is sort of emphasizing that it is, and we can only hope that that's what it's going to reflect, not just in Frontiers, but for Sonic games for the next 10 years. This is what I've been saying for the longest time. This is what many other fans my age like me who've been saying for the longest time have been saying for the longest time, and Sega, I just hope you deliver. Please make Sonic Frontiers good. Please don't try to appeal to multiple types of fans at once. Please don't try to go into two directions at once. You can appeal to all three by appealing to that one demographic. Choose that target demographic, choose the adventure demographic, and you will see that if you go by this format, this is what is going to please everyone, or at the very least, the majority of people. You can never please everyone, but to get the best results from critics, from fans, And from gamers around the world, this is what you need to do. Anyway, I'm Lightning Thunderbolt. We're signing off now. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your time. And until next time, as always, keep on staying way past cool.